Welcome to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host, and thank you for downloading today's show. We're going to talk about reinventing yourself. And I think it's a conversation that's applicable to everyone and anyone, no matter what you do in your life. And the reason is because if you're in a job or career that you love, you work for someone else, and that's fine, and you love that. Sometimes along the path, we get distracted with other details that direct us away from the core reason why we're doing what we're doing in the first place. So I think today's show will be inspirational for all of you, regardless of if you work for someone or not, and especially if you're feeling stuck in different areas of life. Also, I do want to remind you that we are in April, and there's still $100 off the ticket for the next big step, which is another place where you can take this information, put it into practice and action, and come out with a plan and transformation after a little more than 3-day retreat with me and some amazing people that will help you really reinvent your life completely from top to bottom if it's something that you are interested in. So April is going to be, again, $100 off the ticket price, and there's still a 5-pay plan to help your pocketbooks. So if you're interested in coming to September's event, that's the 20th through the 23rd, please make sure to register this month to save $100. You can go to jjflazanes.com/next big step. You can also just come to jjflazanes.com. There is now an event tab at the top of the page. Next month in May, we're going to do our next 30-day manifestation challenge, and I will start letting people in by the 3rd week in April. And the reason is because we have a lot of videos. I've got some instructional audios. There's a podcast to listen to get you prepared. And I realized that letting people in like the day before was not enough time for you to sort of feel comfortable about what to do in that 30-day process. So if you're someone who's been waiting in the wings, you've already registered, but you haven't been let in, it's because I'm waiting for that 3rd week, and then you can get started. So if you're interested in that, you can also go to jjflazanes.com, click on free tools and resources, and then the 30-day manifestation challenge. And we'd love to have you join us in May. It's free, and it is 30 days, and you can focus on anything that you would like to manifest in your life. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. Again, remember, reinvention is not just about your career. It could be about your outlook. It could be on your feelings. It could be on your interpretation. So enjoy today's show and let me know what you think. Steve Olsher is known as the world's foremost reinvention expert. Famous for helping individuals and corporations become exceptionally clear on their what, that is, the one thing they were created to do. His practical, no-holds-barred approach to life and business propels his clients towards achieving massive profitability while also cultivating a life of purpose, conviction, and contribution. A 25-plus-year entrepreneur, Steve is the chairman and founder of Liquor.com, online pioneer who launched a CompuServe's electronic mall in 1993, New York Times bestselling author of What is Your What? Discover the one amazing thing that you were born to do, author of the Business Technology Book of the Year, Internet Profits, the world's leading experts reveal how to profit online, creator of the New Media Summit, host of the #1 rated radio show and podcast Reinvention Radio, international keynote speaker, and an in-demand media guest who's appeared on CNN, the Huffington Post, the cover of Foundr Magazine, and countless other media outlets. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me at New Media Summit. I can't wait to share about it with the audience and let them know what it is in case anyone's interested in joining us at one of your next events. But I want to talk today about the reinvention aspect. Your show is called Reinvention Radio. Reinvention applies to so many aspects of our lives, and the people who listen to my shows on the different platforms and the different channels that I have, anywhere from health and fitness and wellness to relationships to spirituality to purpose in life. Talk to us about and tell us a story about how you came up with and how you claimed reinvention for yourself.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, but it's basically the story of my own reinvention, right? I mean, I think that's kind of what we end up doing is just like in author land, we write the book that we most need, right? I think that for me, I'm kind of the poster child for reinvention, both in my personal life and in business as well. And as I looked back on my career of I mean, even way back in the day of DJing and opening up my own nightclub when I was 19, to getting in the catalog world and then online in 93, and .coms and real estate and coaching and authoring and speakering and doing live events and those sort of things. It's just the continual reinvention of my life and businesses, and really just being willing to pivot as needed. That I think has really given me the opportunity to confidently position myself as a reinvention expert. And I think when Foundr Magazine puts you on the cover as the king of reinvention, then I think it's been validated. So I'm just really the poster child for it.
Well, let me know. Tell us a little bit about, like, where did you start out, like, way back? What did you want to be? Like, some people have a trajectory of, I want to be whatever, some kind of architect or artist or dancer or actor or film producer or teacher. People start off on
I just didn't want to be broke.
You just didn't want to be broke. So have you really just been chasing the money the whole time?
Well, I mean, there's an interesting story there as well. But reality is, so in my book, What Is Your What? Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do, which again I wrote because I needed it after having done Myers-Briggs and What Color Is Your Parachute and all of those different modalities that really left with more questions than answers. I really needed to create a framework that I could follow that would allow me to hit the ground running and really figure out, how am I naturally wired to excel? What really puts fire in my soul? And I couldn't figure it out. I'm not like one of those people that, in the book, we talk about the 4 paths. One of the paths that people are on is the path of the birther, where like literally they've kind of known since the womb who they are and just what it is that they're here to do. And I think we kind of hate those people. But reality for me is we love them, but we hate them, because they're just so clear. They might get off track, but eventually they get back on track. And so for me, I've never been a birther, right? Like I've never had that clarity of, okay, this is exactly what I want to be doing. And that is, I think, one of the things that really makes me qualified to help people, because now I feel like I've really found a groove of helping people discover, share, and monetize their what. And once they figure out what it is, it truly does make a pretty big difference.
So have you jumped from, it sounds like, trying different things out versus gone on a path, decided, you know what, this is the wrong path? So you're not a birther. So what's the title of what it is that you are? Obviously, besides reinvention expert.
Right. So sometimes in my life, I've been a reinventor. A reinventor is somebody who literally makes like a 180-degree shift in their life. One of my favorite examples is a gentleman by the name of Joe Omoya, who started out as a chiropractor in his career. He went to school and invested heavily in getting his degrees, and actually opened up his own practice, right? So, I mean, really heavily invested in being a chiropractor. And he did this for years and had a big book of paying clients. And one day he woke up, and I mean, like he literally woke up and just said, I can't do this anymore. And worked his way through that period of transition into doing what he's doing now full time, which is helping single women find love. And so, it's like a 180-degree turn. And there are times where I've certainly done that. But I think more than anything else, I'm a shifter, which means that I've had to make subtle adjustments to the What Is Your What framework to really figure out what it is that I'm most compelled to do in that moment of time. And if you look at the book, What Is Your What? The subtitle is Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do. But I think the subtitle actually should probably be Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do for now.
Right, until you get an inspiration or learn something or get directed. I mean, in law of attraction speak, there's this understanding that if you're connected to yourself, to source, to creator, to the universe, whatever, you follow the impulse. And so you trust the impulse, and that may take you in a whole new direction. And for a lot of people, our heads get in the way of that and go, well, that's too scary, especially if someone's born into a family that's very long term in one career, you go to school, you do the right thing by, following your path you're supposed to be on and what people tell you should do. So obviously there's part of that for me on a spiritual side, law of attraction side, that's really like, that's it. Like what you're doing, you get into alignment, you get in a good space, you follow the impulse and you shift and you move and you trust, because it keeps working out. And if it doesn't work out, at least it teaches you something about a path that you maybe shouldn't be on. So what I'm really curious about that you mentioned about the Myers-Briggs, what tests, what personality things did you look at, did you do that helped you to define or to confuse you? Like, I want to know more about that, because there are people out there who are like, I don't know what I should be doing.
Yeah. And reality is I have done all of those modalities, from Myers-Briggs to What Color Is Your Parachute to Strengths Finders. And I mean, I think you name it and I've tried it. And one of the reasons why again, in Authorland, you write the book you most need. One of the reasons why I created this What Is Your What framework is because what I realized is that, knowing that I'm an ENJF, or I don't know, whatever the hell I am, it's just like, okay, so WTF. It's like, what do I do with that information? Or like, going through What Color Is Your Parachute, like you walk into a room and there's 4 conversations, and one's about business and one's about sports and one's about finance and one's about, celebrities. And I'm just walking into that room looking like, where's the door? Like, how do I get out of this room? And so that's really at this juncture of my life, like, even way back when, but even now, it's like, I need something more practical. I need something that really says, hey, you can hit the ground running doing X, Y, or Z. And that's kind of how I backed into this framework, which allows folks who go through it to become very clear on 3 things. One is their core gift. And if you look at the cover, What Is Your What, you'll see that the only graphic element we have on the cover is the DNA strand, because I really truly believe that your core gift is already in your DNA. It's a part of who you are. And so examples of gifts can be like communicating or healing or teaching or enrolling or protecting, or those sort of things. And you may have a couple of gifts, but one's always going to have a little bit of an edge over the other. Even if it's just 51-49, one's going to have a little bit of an edge. And I do believe that remains constant throughout your entire life. And so, as I like to say, your what really has chosen you. It's not that which you have chosen, unlike your why, which you can choose because that's something that is external. But once you understand what your core gift is, you then have to figure out the primary vehicle that you will use to share that gift. But knowing the gift and knowing the vehicle is not in and of itself enough. There's a really important part of that equation that none of the other modalities help you with, which is, the third part of the What Is Your What framework. And that's knowing the people that you're most compelled to serve. And so if you look at this as a tripod, and what happens when you take out any one leg of the tripod, the whole thing falls over, right? So you could know your gift and you can know your vehicle, but if you're not clear on the people that you're most compelled to serve, that doesn't work, right? If you know your people and you know your gift, but you don't know your vehicle in terms of how you will serve them, that doesn't work. And you can run it 6 ways from Sunday, and you can see that unless you've got all 3, it really doesn't work. And most people go through life without having clarity around one part of the What Is Your What framework, let alone all 3.
So what is your gift?
I believe that my gift very clearly is communicating. That is my core gift, is communicating. Now, over the years, and let me say this, that of the 3 elements of the What Is Your What framework, I believe that your gift is the only thing that remains constant. I do believe that the vehicle and the people that you're most compelled to serve, I know confidently, I can say this with confidence, that can change over time. And so it's more organic. Those 2 parts are more fluid. And so right now, the primary vehicle that I use to share that gift is either through writing or speaking, and that can take the form of my own live events as well. And then the people that I'm most compelled to serve are those who are looking to discover, share, and monetize their what.
Okay, very specific. Thank you, Steve, for all that really good work. I love that. And do you have, I have an advantage, I think, from another perspective while you've done all these different tests because I use astrology and I know your astrology, at least 2 planets. Do you know the rest of your chart? I know 2 parts.
Um, Sagittarius
Sun and
and
Gemini
Gemini,
moon,
right?
right? Yeah. Do you know
Yeah.
anything
My
else?
wife actually is kind of into that. She knows all that stuff. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Do you know anything about those two things?
I know that the moon kind of drives personality, right? More than the sun. Is
The
that?
moon is how you deal with emotion.
Aha.
And so that's a big piece because it's really how we sort of interpret the world. And your personality is really more your sun. There's many other planets, but so you're Sagittarius. Sagittarians are truth seekers. I have a lot of Sag in me. I'm not a Sag, but I've got Sag in 3 different places. And so the Sag part of you feels to me like that truth seeker, that fun, that following the impulse because it makes me feel good and I'm interested and I'm curious and I want to climb the mountain and learn more about that. And I want to see where that
Mm-hmm.
takes me. Like that's the Sagittarius part. And then the Gemini part's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because that's air. And so both of your two of your major planets are very moving. They're very like exploratory. They're very energizing, energetic. Gemini's kind of, besides the twins being, someone could say two-faced in a negative way, or you could say
Mm-hmm.
private, and then what image you put out to the world, what image you keep inside, or how you are with one person versus how you are with somebody else. Those things don't really resonate for me with you like that. But Geminis have a curiosity, and there is a bit of a trusting like the air, like you're over here and then the wind blows and you go, oh, let's look over here, that's interesting, let me go look over that. And it's not to say that that's you don't complete things because I think your combination is really good, but for me, this your whole backstory makes me go, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. When you said, and here was the clincher, because I have lots of Sag in me too. When you said, and I've never ever taken, heard, learned anything about the what color's your parachute. I know nothing about that, so I'm gonna totally go research that now. But when you're talking about the different what color's your parachute and you're just looking for the door, that's such a
Yeah.
Sag trait because it's not being boxed in. Like anytime it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I just need freedom. The other trait is having complete freedom. So that's where I find this is just really fascinating with the communication because I have that too. One of my gifts is communicating and I believe that, and vehicle, of course, same thing, writing and speaking. And I wonder if that's partly a Sag thing. So when you work with when you wrote the book, because I know you said you write the book you need to learn, you write the topic and
The,
subject you
the
need to
book you
learn.
most need.
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What did that do for you when you came out of that? I mean, obviously you had a book now and you could do coaching and programs and podcasts and help other people, but what did it do for you?
Well, and let me say this just to kind of close the loop on the astrology side of the equation. I'm actually a November Sag, and evidently, according to my wife, that makes me a little more Scorpio since it's the 25th,
Yeah. Yeah, you're
which
cuspy.
is sort of
Yes, you're
cuspish,
cuspy.
as I've learned. So I don't know how that affects things at all, but Lord knows, I'm definitely kind of like a windsock. And so, like you said, something looks good, I kind of blow over there, and something else looks good, I got to blow it, right? So the book is more, I think, of a roadmap, of an anchor, if you will, for me to be able to use and leverage. Right? I mean, I think there's a big part of me that needed these teachings for sure. And what I can say is, as I look back, on my career and certainly on my personal life as well, that I'm definitely a grass is greener type of person. There's no doubt at all about that. But at the same token, I knew I couldn't go to my deathbed with a lot of the life lessons, if you will, that I had in my head just still within me. So part of the reason why I also wrote the book was just to help people avoid a lot of the same brain damage and trials and tribulations, if you will, that I had to endure in my life to get me to where I am. And um, my wake up call really came back in about 2008, 2009, right in there. When I realized, and I don't have to go into a long belabored story here, but basically I had a vision of my own funeral as I was sitting bedside with my stepfather as he was in his final days. And as I was holding his hand, he could no longer communicate, but I think he was putting this vision into my head or something of that nature, because I had a vision of my funeral where it was actually me in the casket. I was going down into the earth, and I could hear the words being spoken graveside, which were basically, "Here lies Steve Olsher. He dedicated his life to chasing the almighty dollar." And
Ouch.
that's all that was said. Yeah. And that's where I kind of had that wake up call of like, I'm doing a lot of things that are pretty good for me and those closest to me, but really no one else. And so I had to really honor what that vision was that I was given there and figure out how I can serve people in a more powerful way. And I knew from that point forward that if I didn't write that book, I don't think I'd be able to look at myself in the mirror on my deathbed in those final days and know I had done whatever I could do to help others.
That's powerful. And I think it's awesome that you got that information. You were very connected to have that dream and be inspired to take action and have clarity on a bigger perspective. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people have those and they don't trust them and they don't listen to them and they ignore them
Yep.
until they get bigger. So bravo to you for getting it and going, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do now and
Yeah.
how I'm supposed to proceed and not allowing that to get bigger. So I want, the people that are listening range. And I know because a lot of them are in my Facebook groups doing my 30-day manifestation challenge, and some of them have come to my live events. And I know that there are people who have a bigger mission and message that they haven't figured out yet. So your book will help them get to that.
I believe so. I say that from the standpoint of it's not a quick sort of happy read. I mean, it is a book that's very much built on the need for introspection, and you do have to answer questions. And if you're willing to answer those questions and take on the exercises that you'll find within those pages, then I believe it will absolutely, and I can say confidently, it will absolutely help folks. But some folks get a lot out of it just from reading it from cover to cover. But I will say this, which is if you read it from cover to cover, you'll definitely get benefit from it. But the true benefit comes from actually putting pen to paper and taking on the exercises that are within.
That's great. What is your most favorite career or work experience that you had? I know
Yeah.
you've done so many different things. So what was the most fun?
Well, certainly the most fun has to be. I'm definitely a lover of music and entertaining and that sort of thing. And so when I DJ'd, of course, that was mighty good fun. I opened my own nightclub when I was 19. Yes, it was a non-alcoholic club, but I opened my own nightclub when I was 19. So that was good quality fun. But I will say this, which is I've been able to marry a lot of what I love doing into the live event that you mentioned earlier, which is the New Media Summit. And it's, I'm a big fan in this world today, JJ, as I'm sure you can appreciate. It's like we spend so much time on our own, most of us as solopreneurs, in this gig economy, right? Where we're just kind of solo. So I love going to events and connecting with people and developing real relationships with people. So I go to a lot of events, and the summit is kind of the culmination of the best of what I love about events, and really eliminating as much as possible of what I hate about other events. And so I turned it into, I liken it to a wedding, I mean, I hope I don't turn people off here, but my catchphrase is, like, let's turn this bitch into a wedding. It's like, let's go. I mean, let's have some fun. Let's dance. Let's do our line dances. Let's be silly. Let's have fun. And really break down all of the walls that you see at so many events. And so it gives me the opportunity to share my unique gift of communication, where I can teach people and really help them learn about the world of new media and then how to monetize the visibility that they'll receive if they get into that world. But it also leverages my love of people and connecting with some of the world's top podcasters like yourself, who come to the show to share to the summit. See, I call it a show. Who come to the summit to share your brilliance, but also we set aside time for the attendees to be able to pitch the podcasters in attendance and literally get booked on the spot. So it's really a hybrid type event, and I will say it's definitely the most fun that I've had in a long time, because I think it combines so much of what I really enjoy, and we just have the most amazing, incredible, giving people like yourself that come to this event to be a part of what we're doing. So honestly, I think it's kind of it's like a culmination of everything I love.
It was a great event, and it is a great event. I mean, there's only been one so far, so I can only say that it was, and it will be again. I know we have another one coming up here in April.
Yep.
And I want you to tell us a little bit more about how people can learn more about that. But I do want to, before we get to that, I do want to congratulate you for a very well put on event. It was super fun. I agree with you. It was like a wedding and a big connection and lots of really happy people, and minus, the trials and tribulations of putting something on for the first time and learning how to make it the most efficient for everybody in terms of energy and sharing energy in the pitch sessions, right? Which still were very beneficial, but I know we're doing it different again this year. It was an awesome event, and I was very inspired and impressed with what you were able to put on. It helped me to get excited about my event, because back in September of last year when you had the first one, my event was already scheduled, but I hadn't started promoting it yet. Mm-hmm. And while my event was very different in January and my next event's in September, because it's a much smaller room, it's a much more of a retreat feel than it is a big party, there still is that community aspect and adding the things you like the most. Like, I added all the things in that I do all the time, from my salt lamps and my meditations and my essential oils and burning candles and burning Palo Santo and ringing my Tibetan bell, and like I literally pulled everything, all the rituals. I brought my tarot cards, I brought my goddess cards. Like, I just put it all in there. I'm like, this is all me. And so I think, if anything, I could see that event for you, and it felt like it was an integration of all the parts of you. And would that be accurate?
Well, for sure. And I love that the New Media Summit inspired you to bring in more of yourself to that event, because I am a big believer in, let's get people to self-select, right? I mean, let's get people to raise their hands and say, yeah, I'm your tribe. Like, you and I we're one, right? Like, we get each other. And the only way to really do that is to bring in more of yourself to the work that you were doing. And people will raise their hands when they know it's a connection, and they'll put it down when they go, yeah, that whole salt thing and tarot cards, it's not really me. But that's perfect, because you want people to self-select, so that the people who show up are the ones that are truly your people and are meant to be there. So this is a perfect example of, my event is not for everyone. Not every podcaster that I ask to come to the event says, yes, we'd love to meet your attendees and share our brilliance. And so for them, it's not a good fit. And not every attendee is willing to put themselves, on the line like that, right? And be vulnerable and to pitch podcasters about who they are and what they do, and take the chance of hearing, yes, we'd love to have you on the show, or no, it's not a great fit, right? So even just putting the exercise of just putting yourself out there, frankly, is an exercise that a lot of people don't want to take on. So even that in of itself means that I naturally attract, if you will, bold type people to the event, even though they may not on the surface be bold. And I use that word because my DJ name was Mr. Bold since 1987. I'll have you people know I've been using it for 30 something years.
I wondered where that came from. I was like, right? Mr. Bold. Where'd that come from?
And, Doritos are now bold, and so is Chili's. But hey, it took them a while to catch up, but they did. But the truth is that I think a lot of people have that within, and they just need the right venue and the right prodding to bring that out. So a lot of what we do with the dancing and the small group discussions and the pitching, and everybody's a VIP there, so we all break bread together, we all hang together, and so on. is it gets them out of their shell where you can't hide. It's just not an event where you can hide.
Well, and I appreciated that feeling sort of in the air that you're being who you are. And someone else said that to me at my event, that they were struggling with stepping into a new place in their life and they were concerned about what other people would say or think. And then after seeing my event and me, they're like, oh, because I did what you did. And it was my first event that I've had in a very long time. And it was definitely my first event since being a podcaster. And I did attract my tribe so that I did feel comfortable bringing out all of me. And I'll definitely say you inspired part of that because I saw you bring out sort of all of you at your event. And not that I am who I am all the time. People meet me after they see me on some kind of TV thing or a video, or they hear a podcast and they'll go, wow, you're the same as you are on camera. I'm like, I'm the same all the time. I do not change. I don't have I'm on face and I'm off face. It's always just who I am. So, but even for me, stepping into, in my whole podcast journey, stepping into how I'm linking this for all of you who are listening right now is in that reinvention, in that like it's a expansion, in that every step along the way you're being asked to trust and to be who you are more and more. And that's going to get scary because you're going to wonder who's going to follow you or who's going to like you or who's going to judge you if you truly step into who you really are. But it's a path and like a staircase. You go one step at a time. And my guess would be, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, that your path sort of allowed you step by step to work on different parts of you until you could link them all together and confidently, because you've walked the path in different directions, say, this is who I am and this is how it looks and I'm okay with that and I want to attract more people who are like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And as you said, I mean, every step, whether it's forwards or backwards, is a step along that path, right? So you absolutely are where you were meant to be. I mean, I believe in this exact moment, and everything that has happened has led you to this exact moment. And what I firmly believe is that life starts over right now, and it starts over again right now, right? So, I mean, we literally have the choice with what to do in this moment and in literally every moment that follows. And so, yeah, everything that has happened to me, for me, with me, against me, I mean, you name it, I believe that it has shaped me without any question into the person that I am today. And being willing to be a DJ and be a drummer and be on stage and be on this, in that spotlight, I do believe is something that doesn't come naturally to everyone by any stretch, but it is something that comes naturally to me. And if I didn't honor that gift and that willingness to share of myself in that way, I don't know where I would be in this moment. I think the same holds true for you. Yeah, I mean, you've been given a gift, whatever it is, to share. And I think that when we reach our final days, we're going to have to answer that question for ourselves of, did we use the gift that we've truly been given?
This is going to link perfectly to this next question for all of you people who do law of attraction, who listen to my show. Steve, which job, career, choice, path did you take that was really ended up being not the right one at all, but without it, you wouldn't have learned a very important lesson? And if you could tell us what that lesson was. So you mentioned pivoting in the beginning of the show, and pivoting is so important. It's a great law of attraction term. But because contrast, people get nervous and think, oh, I've made the wrong choice. And to me, there's never really a wrong choice. You're defining and redefining and clarifying what you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes we have to try the thing that we think is good to learn it wasn't good, to go, oh, no, that's not what I want. And it's very clarifying, and it makes things more specific, and it gives you more tools to move forward on a different path. So what job or career that was like absolutely like a crash and burn that taught you so much that you wouldn't be here today without it?
I mean, it's a great question, and I think it would be certainly hypocritical for me to say that any of those jobs that I've had over the years haven't helped me in some way or weren't my favorite. You know what I'm saying? Because reality is, in that moment of time, it's what I felt like I needed. And I've done anything from stocking shelves to waiting tables to pumping gas and so on. And one of my favorite stories that I love sharing actually is when I look back on the decision to open the club, and that was a really hard decision for me to decide to move forward. I mean, I was 19, very green, right? Didn't know anything. And I was talking to a mentor of mine, actually happened to be my golf coach at the time, about the idea of creating this non-alcoholic club where we would cater to the teenagers early, like 8 to 11:30, and then we'd close down and we'd clean up and we'd reopen at midnight and stay open until 4, 5, 6 in the morning because we didn't serve booze, so we could. And the bars had to close at 1:30, and people when they're young don't really feel like going home that early. So it seemed like it was a good idea. I had been DJing. I had a really decent following at that point. So I thought it was a natural next step to open up my club. And when I was talking to my mentor about this, he's like, I think it's a really good idea. What are you afraid of? Why wouldn't you do it? And I said, I don't know. I guess I'm just afraid of looking bad. I'm afraid of losing money. I'm afraid of not being able to recover. Those sort of things, which in hindsight is pretty funny because how far could I really have fallen at that point? But all the natural fears that come to mind. And he said, tell me, what are you doing right now for money? Like how are you putting bread on the table? How are you keeping the lights on? Because I'd put myself through college for the most part and paid for the majority of the bills. And I told him I'm waiting tables, I'm DJing, I'm pumping gas. I'm doing whatever I got to do to make ends meet. And, you have thousands of conversations with people over the years, and people say millions of things to you, and you forget most of it. But this one thing that he said has really stuck with me my entire life. And what he said, and I kind of use this as a mantra now moving forward from that point, is he said, I think the club's a really good idea, man. And I absolutely think you should do it. And as I look at it, if things don't work out with the club, you can always go back to pumping gas. And so I was like, wow, that really makes sense to me. And so the bottom line being, have I loved every job? No, of course I haven't loved every job, but it gave me skills that I could fall back on. So whether it's cleaning toilets or pumping gas or waiting tables or whatever it might be, there's something you can do if you try to bring something to fruition and it doesn't pan out. And so have all the jobs I've done over the years been glamorous? Of course not. But I wouldn't say that any of them were necessarily my least favorite as I look back on them, only because I learned so many skills at every step of the path there.
Well, that's such a great PC way of putting it all, because I was thinking, how would I say that? I'm like, well, is there a job that I hated? Yeah, I hated retail. I really hated retail, and I appreciate knowing that I would never want to pick up after people who leave their clothes in the dressing rooms, that they're like slobs. So anyway, so I'm glad that you have such a much better attitude than I do about all of your jobs. I can get I can get theoretical and say, yes, it taught me that the contrast showed me, but really I hated retail. So.
You probably did, but you're not doing it now, right? So now that you look back.
Oh yeah, it taught me. Oh no, won't do this ever again. Yeah. But it did lead me to the gym. So it led me to the gym, which then led me to personal training. So without it, I wouldn't be where I am, and that was really important. So it served its purpose. So
it's hard lifting those big marble slabs onto the top shelf when you're, 5'6", 105 pounds, right? You got to bulk up. That's why you did it.
Well, not quite that, but now I know people are listening and they want to know more about both the New Media Summit and the book. So let's start with what everybody can benefit from, no matter if you're in business for yourself or you're not, or you're not 100% happy in your career or even in your marriage or in your life in general. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, definitely not one to give marriage advice, although I have been married for more than 20 years. But I do think that if you're clear on what your what is, it can positively impact, of course, your personal life as well. So yeah, I'm pretty fortunate to be able to say that the book hit the New York Times list in 2013. And we give the entire book away for free. So I'd love to help you figure out what your what is. And you can grab a free copy at whatisyourwhat.com. newmediasummit.com. So I'm happy for people to do that. And the New Media Summit, which you have been a part of and will continue to be a part of, and we love you for that. It is a very unique event where you not only have the opportunity to learn how to leverage and monetize the power of new media, but it truly is the only event where you can meet 40 of the world's leading podcasters and pitch them on who you are and what you do and literally get booked on the spot. And so I don't know that we'll have seats left for April by the time folks hear this, but we might. So just go to newmediasummit.net to see where that's at. But if not, we're definitely doing another one in the fall, and we'll be doing it again, of course, multiple times in 2019.
Any dates, Steve, for the one in the fall yet?
I don't even want to do it.
Okay.
We were going to do it in Nashville, and then like every venue in Nashville is sold out. So we're scrambling right now, but we won't do it when yours is.
Thank you. Well, that's important to me because I booked my next one around you. So my next event, September 20th through the 23rd, and I wanted to make sure New Media Summit wasn't happening again at that time. So let's you and I keep in touch because I'm going to continue a January and a September event, and I want to make sure that I'm available to attend if still invited to New Media Summits.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, we're good on that. We'll make sure they don't overlap.
Good. So everyone, go get the book, whatisyourwhat.com and newmediasummit.net. And if for some reason you can't find either one of those, please be in touch. You know where to find me, all of you, to get that link, and I will make sure that I get it to you. I'd love to meet and see you at New Media Summit, and definitely I'm going to download the book because I don't have it either, and I think it's time for me to read your book, Steve. Whatisyourwhat.com.
Please do.
Very good. Steve Olsher, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. Keep up the amazing work.
You too. See you soon.